Congratulations! In this video, we're going to show you how to fill out the offer details worksheet. Now, in some cases, your real estate attorney may give you a similar form to fill out, so you have all the pertinent information to give to him to draw up the sales contract. In other cases, you may be working with a buyer's agent, and in those cases, sometimes a buyer's agent will go ahead and offer up to draw up the sales contract. Go ahead and let the buyer's agent do that, and then you can deliver that sales contract to your real estate attorney and let them review it with you to make sure that you're not signing anything that you shouldn't be signing. So let's go ahead and work through the offer details worksheet. I'm including both a PDF copy and a Microsoft Word copy. So the PDF copy you can print out, you can fill out in hand and either deliver it or fax it to your attorney. The Microsoft Word document, you can simply type in the table and enter that information in there and then email it to your attorney. So you have two different choices there. So the first thing you need to do is you need to list all the buyers' names. Typically, you're going to have a husband and wife that you're selling to, so you want to list both their names. First and last name is sufficient, but those are going to go on the contract. You also want to have the address of the buyers, the phone number of the buyers, and the email of the buyers. The reason for all of that information is so your attorney or the title company can communicate with the buyers via mail, phone, or email if they need to. Next, you're going to want to include the mortgage company information. The reason that the mortgage company information is important is in case the real estate attorney needs to reach out to the mortgage company to validate something or to send something, you have all this information at your fingertips. This is going to help prevent delays down the road for you during the closing. The type of loan program, this is typically going to be is this a cash purchase? If that's the case, just write cash purchase here. Otherwise, it could be a conventional loan, it could be a VA loan, a USDA loan, it could be an FHA loan. There's many different type of loan programs out there, so go ahead and notate that. Next, you want to put the agreed upon price. So this is the price that you and the buyer agree upon that you're going to sell the house for or the home for. So in this case, it could be $249,500. Just go ahead and write that price in there. And then the deposit amount. Now, you don't want to go crazy here. The deposit amount is just a good faith of the buyer that they have some skin in the game here. It can be as little as $100 or at the max, I would say $1,000. Anywhere in between there is fine, but you don't want to chase away the buyer by having too high of a deposit required. Next is going to be the desired closing date. A typical home loan, like a conventional mortgage and FHA, you're going to need 45 to 60 days to close on those. Typically around 45 days, some can close in 30 days. If the buyer is requesting or you are requesting a closing date that is less than 30 days, you'll want to check with the title company to make sure that they can meet that timeline. Also, the buyer needs to check with their mortgage company to make sure that they can meet that timeline. During the busy seasons, especially like the summer and the spring, mortgage companies will get backlogged and it can take them up to 60 days to close on a loan. Next, you want to detail out any concessions or the cash due to the buyer at the closing. Now, this means if you guys negotiate a new carpeting throughout the house, then you have to do that before you close on the home. Go ahead and list that here. Or if you're going to give the buyers $2,000 to put a flooring allowance in the contract, you want to put that here because that cash is going to be due back to the buyer at closing. Let's jump to the next page. This is only 2 pages long. So you want to also notate any fixtures that will not stay with the property. So anything that's basically bolted down should stay with the property, and this also includes your window treatments, typically your curtains, your blinds, and things like that. Let's face it, when you go to a new house, they're not going to have the same shape and size of windows, so you're probably going to need to buy new ones of those anyway. Another item, for example, could be like an antique lamp that you have hanging from the ceiling. Ideally, you want to take all those fixtures out before you even show the property, but if something happens you don't, and you're not going to sell that, Make sure that you put that here and make sure that the buyer knows that at the time of the deal. The next one is, will you move out on closing day or will you rent back your home from your new buyer? So in this case, you want to, in most cases, you're going to be moved out on closing day. So you're going to move out the day before or a couple days ahead of time. The home's going to be empty, but in some cases, you're not ready to move out and you can negotiate with the buyer that you stay in the home after closing. Typically, you will pay the buyer some form of rent, and oftentimes that full rent, whether it's 1, 2, 3 months, will be due at closing. You want to note if there is a home warranty that you're including in the sale. This is where you would go pay the premium for a home warranty and include that in the sale of the home. You need to indicate if there's any personal items that the buyer wants included in the sale. Now, these are not going to go in the real estate contract because the mortgage company is going to throw up a big red flag for that. However, the attorney will need to draw up a separate contract, or you'll need to conduct that transaction outside of the mortgage. I recommend just conducting it outside the mortgage. That way you don't have to pay an attorney to draw up that contract. Lastly, I left an area here where you can write other comments. There's going to be some crazy things that happen during the negotiations. Sometimes, it's not often, but they can come up. And so you can notate those here in the other comments. Now, whenever you look at your sales contract, or if you look at any sample sales contract, it's going to have a lot of other fields that you can fill in. The reason that those fields were not included in this is, for the most part, you and the attorney can decide independently of the buyer on those. For example, how long will you give the buyer to complete a home inspection? You can decide that information outside the buyer. How much are you willing to pay in repairs that come up during a home inspection? You can decide that on your own, and then whenever you give the sales contract to the buyer, if they have an issue with it, you can go back and forth with different red lines to the contract. So remember, if you have a sheet like this from your attorney, go ahead and use that. If your attorney doesn't have one, feel free to print this out or use a Microsoft Word document and fill that in. Send that to the attorney, but make sure that when you're on the phone with the buyer going through all these details, you read each of them back so there's no surprises when the sales contract comes up. That way you don't have any delays in your closing. Thank you and congratulations for getting a deal.